My fiancé insisted on a no-kids wedding, banned my daughter, but her kids and nieces were there. I called off the wedding on the spot. I proposed to my fiancé 6 months ago. We had dated for about a year and I thought it was about time. I didn't want a big wedding. I thought it would be an unnecessary waste of money. She wanted a big one though, and she wanted me to pay for it. I told her no, as I couldn't afford it. We also had 3 kids. I had a daughter and she had 2 daughters. My baby was the youngest. We had to be careful with our finances. I could tell she didn't like it. Eventually, we both compromised. I agreed on spending a little more, and she agreed on splitting the wedding costs, as they should be. She said she wanted a no-kids wedding, and I hesitated. I wanted my daughter there, but she seemed persistent about that rule, so I relented. I asked her to bond more with my daughter. They both were comfortable with each other, but they weren't that close. She said that they would bond with time, and I believed her. I knew it would take time to develop a relationship. I had seen her with my soon-to-be daughters, and I was mesmerized by their bond. It was beautiful, and I wish my daughter could experience such a thing too. This point was what led me to propose. As time passed, I could see that she was stressed out, so I tried to pamper and relax her as much as I could. I knew wedding preparations were stressful. I was present for everything, though. I was a part of every decision. I didn't force her to spend time with my daughter, but I did mention it a couple of times. I wanted to give them both space to form their relationship naturally. I did send my daughter toward her a few times, but she usually ignored her, telling her she was busy or making up an excuse. I didn't like it. I could see she spent time with her daughters. Now that we are going to be a family, she should make an effort too. 3 months into the engagement, I brought it up. I told her what I felt and explained to her that my daughter was an important part of my life, and now that she and I were engaged, I expected her to make an effort towards my daughter. I asked her how she would feel if I ignored her daughters and didn't have much contact with them, and that seems to have given her the message. She apologized to me and told me that she would start putting in more effort. 2 months passed and she had taken her out 2 to 3 times. It wasn't much, but at least she was trying. I understood that the wedding was nearing, and she had other things to do too. My daughter was really sad that she couldn't come to the wedding. I felt really bad. I spoke to my fiancé about it and asked her to at least agree to let our kids be there. After all, they were our family. She said it would be too stressful and she didn't want them to make a mess. I tried explaining it to my daughter, but she was hurt and cried a little. My heart broke. I really wanted her to be a part of my big day. She understood though. Let's move on to my wedding day. When I entered the venue, I loved how everything looked. It was beautiful, but as I looked around while walking inside, I was surprised to see both of her daughters and some of her nieces there. I stopped midway in shock. I had asked her and tried to convince her to let at least our kids be at the wedding, and here I see all the kids in her family standing there, all dressed up. I felt angry. This was a no-kids wedding, right? Then why were they there? I walked right back out. I could hear the whispers behind me. It was mostly our family and friends, so around 30 people. The doors of the venue shut. Her sister came out a minute later and asked me what happened. I asked why there were kids at the wedding. She grew nervous and tried to make an excuse, but I blew her off and walked away. I tried calling my fiancé because I wanted an answer, but I couldn't reach her. 10 minutes later, a car pulled up, and it was my fiancé. As she got out, she smiled at me, confused. I was very angry at this point. I had seen the look on my daughter's face when I told her she couldn't attend. She was a part of me, and I loved her to death. I had still compromised for my fiancé. As she walked near me, I spit out, "Why are the kids at the wedding?" I could see the surprise on her face. I didn't get an answer. Everybody was out of the car and questioning what was going on. I asked her again, "Why are your daughters and nieces, practically every child in your family, there at the venue? This is a no-kids wedding, right?" She started out that she could explain. I waited. She told me that this was a very last-minute decision since they had no one to watch them, so she let them come to the wedding. Can you believe her? I laughed in her face. I asked her if she thought I was a fool. I told her that she knew how badly I wanted my daughter to be there, and she had insisted on this no-kids rule. And now she was telling me that this was a last-minute decision. I laughed in her face again. I asked her where she had managed to get matching dresses at the last moment. Her mother came up to me and asked me not to make a scene for such a small thing, and I lost it. I yelled at her to back off. I glared at her and asked her how she would feel if her fiancé's daughters and nieces were all there at a no-kids wedding, and her daughter wasn't. That shut her up. Her father didn't know what was going on. He asked his daughter about it, and she was starting to tear up. I was raging, though. I asked her if this is what she meant by starting a family. I told her my daughter seemed to be nowhere in there. She started saying that it was a mistake. She apologized and tried to hold my hand, but I stepped back. I told her this wasn't what I had envisioned when I proposed to her. I walked back inside and went up to the minister. I took the mic from him and announced myself. I told them all that there was a change in plans. She had come running in at this moment. I announced that the wedding was off. I made the reason very clear, too. I didn't want to be painted as the bad guy. I explained to all of them exactly what had happened and why the wedding was canceled. She ran out in embarrassment. I was so angry. After that, I walked out with my family behind me. I went back home with my best man, who was my best friend and the godfather to my daughter. He didn't say much, but stood by me. He knew how I felt. Update 1. 15 days later, over the next few days, I had to sort out everything with all the people that were involved in the wedding arrangements. But the most important thing I had to do was explain to my daughter why the wedding didn't happen. When I got back home, I just hugged her and spent the whole day with her. She asked questions at first, but then she stopped and just played with me. I had packed all my fiancé's stuff and kept it outside. I didn't want to talk to her or interact with her. I know I could have handled the situation better. At that point, all I could imagine was how much worse the treatment towards my daughter would get, and I was furious. I made a mistake by proposing to her. I should have waited longer. I was just so blinded by what could be that I didn't see what it was. The fact that she had the guts to tell OP to fund the whole wedding shows a lot about her character. OP should have hauled his ass miles away from her the moment she mentioned this. NTA. OP was blinded by green flags that weren't even there. He dodged quite a few bullets at the end. So her daughters and nieces were all there, and when asked, she couldn't even come up with a proper reason. Really last-minute decision? What did she think would happen? That since it was the wedding day, OP would just suck it up and go along with her? LOL. Stupid OP clearly loves his daughter. It sucks to have walked in and seen all the children from her family, but none from his side, not even his own. Though I think he could have handled it in a better way, his rage is justified. He is not the a-hole. His ex is a huge one for trying to pull that. What was the fiancé thinking? And then her mother tried to cover it up by telling OP not to make a scene. Bro, your fiancé already made one by inviting all the children on her side of the family but none on his. OP made the right decision to dump her butt right there and then. She dug her grave, so she must lie in it. There's no getting out of this one. Also, OP is a great father. He knew his priorities and stuck to them. Respect. Next story, my son has 2 boys, ages 16 male and 12 male. Their mom and my son's first wife died suddenly 10 years ago. My son and the boys were lost. 8 months later, my son met a woman and fell very hard and fast for her. He admitted to his dad and I that he felt like everything could be perfect again. The boys could have a mom present, and he could have a wife again. We warned him that it might not be that easy, but he was so happy again and appeared to have lightened after meeting her, so we tried not to say too much. His oldest son, for the sake of the post, we will call him Cole, did not take to my son's now second wife, Emma, very easily. My son and Emma married 2 years after his first wife died. Emma had lived with him 6 months prior to the wedding. The youngest, Jamie, started to call Emma mom almost immediately, but he was so little with no memories of his mom. Cole was different. He did not want to call her mom and did not like the idea of her being his second mom. He was adamant he did not want to like that. It became especially clear during the wedding that things would not go well. My son and Emma planned a small exchange between her and the boys, meant to be a sweet moment to celebrate the joining of the family, but Cole wanted no part in it and sat out while his brother and Emma took part. After that, we suggested to our son that everyone could do some therapy, and he listened. It's clear that our son has grown to resent Cole for not embracing Emma and being part of the family the way he wanted him to be. Their relationship is incredibly strained, and Cole is polite but very distant with Emma. He treats her more like he does his teachers than he does the rest of the family, and it angers our son. I have seen my son visibly frustrated when Cole calls her Emma, or when he talks about his mom. A few days ago, my son was ranting and raving about how Cole is a stubborn brat, and how he will never be able to understand why he can't accept Emma as a mom too. He said that adoptive kids don't dig in their heels this way and refuse to accept a new parent, that most are so grateful to have someone. He said it's disrespectful to him, Emma, and to Jamie, that it undermines the family they all want to have, and Cole refuses to try. Also, that he wishes Cole was more like Jamie, that Jamie handled things right, that Cole is disrespectful to him as his dad by not listening. And he also said he finds it hard to look at Cole and feel the same as he does for Jamie because of all this. I reprimanded him for talking like that about Cole. I told him he needs to get over himself and accept his son and find a way to accept that neither Cole nor Jamie's way is inherently right, and it's about what's right for them as individuals. I also told him Cole can feel every bit of that anger, and one day he would lose his son if he can't accept the truth for Cole and let go of all this frustration. My son told me I will never understand and should not speak to him like he's a child, i.e. Tia. My parents divorced when I was 7. My dad was in the Navy, and I didn't see him from 1st grade until 8th grade, and after that I didn't see him at all. My mom and stepdad got together when I was 16. I was very much used to the idea of not having a dad. He wasn't trying to be my dad, but he took care of me and paid for some of my college and helped me, out with the car and all that. My mom pushed so hard so fast for me to call him dad, like before they were ever married or engaged. She really ruined it for me. I'm one of those people that if they're told to do something, they do the opposite. Now that I'm older and he's been in my life longer than my real dad ever was, I would like to call him dad, but I can't get over the mental block of that being what my mom wanted and tried to force on me. If I called him dad, I know she would make it into a huge deal, and I just can't cope with that, which sucks for me and him because I deserve a dad, and he deserves to be called dad. Edit, I say all of that to say that his dad doing all of this and treating him this way may contribute to him never being able to call her mom. Oh, this whole thing is really upsetting to me. My partner passed away 4.5 years ago when we had a 10 and 3-year-old, and I also had a 16-year-old that had lost his dad 5 years beforehand, and he was close with his stepdad. They are now 8, 15, and 21. I couldn't ever imagine taking this stance as the surviving parent. I waited 3+ years to think about dating seriously, and I'm now in an amazing relationship with someone, and he has 3 teenage kids. Neither one of us is under any expectation of each other's children thinking of us as primary parents. Step-parents, sure, but that's completely different from forcing a relationship. I'd be ecstatic if his children eventually looked at me as a trusted parental figure, someone that they felt they could come to, but I also understand that it's complicated when it comes to your bio parents. My kids are open to amazing people in their lives, but only the youngest may still accept a parental figure, but she happens to be the one most outwardly affected by her dad's unexpected death. The thing that dad isn't getting is that you don't get to replace their deceased parents. You may be lucky when you introduce someone into their lives, but they should never be expected to accept a new parental figure, especially so soon after their beloved mother's death. This whole thought process is awful, and I don't like it. NTA up, but your son sure is. It's amazing that he thinks that a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old would react the same way to a mother's death. A 2-year-old doesn't exactly understand, though they may be upset. For a 6-year-old, a parent's death is a world-shattering event because you know that everything will now change. But you don't have the kind of coping mechanisms that a lot of adults have. He will have felt completely betrayed and abandoned by his father because to him at 6 it feels like his mom is being replaced, and by the sounds of it, that's exactly what has occurred. Jamie handled things the right way because he was so young and could easily accept a new parent. Cole was always going to have a harder time. That poor child lost his mother and is going to lose his father too, because his dad is a selfish a-hole who resents a literal child for not forgetting his mom after 6 months, 10 years ago. Next story. I was married to a wonderful man for 10 years. He passed away in a car accident when our children were 6 and 4. When I remarried 5 years later, my new husband had an 11-year-old son. So, our children are now his son, 15, my sons, 15 and 13, and our daughter of 3. His parents set up a trust fund for his first son and for our daughter. I asked if they were doing anything for his 2 stepkids, and he said it was unfair to ask them to set money aside for kids that just came into the family. I accepted his answer because my older kids have money from their dad's life insurance, so they have a good nest egg already. My first husband's parents are great people and have accepted my stepson and my daughter as bonus grandkids. They have made an effort to treat them well and always include them in gifts for the family and on their birthdays and Christmas. My parents have also made an effort to be nice, but they are more standoffish with my stepson. They have a cordial relationship and always send them gifts and invite him along on family events. My parents just sold their farm and are splitting the proceeds amongst all of my siblings and I. All the grandkids are also getting some money. The amount that my 2 sons and my daughter are receiving is about 5 times the amount that is in the trust fund that my stepson and daughter got from my husband's parents. My husband is now saying that it isn't fair that 3 of the kids are getting so much more. I said that it wasn't my money and that my parents could decide for themselves how it should be split up. He thinks that all the money for the kids should be pulled, then split evenly. I refuse to even try and get into the legality of it. It is literally not my money. He says that I'm being in a hole for singling out my stepson, but I just keep saying it isn't my decision. I approached my parents, and they said that the most they would do is split up my daughter's money with him since they are half-brother and sister. That would mean that she gets less than her brothers. I just want to leave everything alone. Tia, I don't actually have a bio dad in my life, so forgive me if this story is confusing. The man I call dad married my mother when I was 1. They divorced when I was 13. This man is my dad. I have never called him stepdad or even thought of him that way. My mom has now been married to a different man, my stepdad, for almost 30 years now. There's nothing wrong with my dad. He is my dad. I love him. We spend time together and all that. But I wouldn't say we're close. He's not even in the top 3 people I would call if I were in trouble. It's not because he's done anything wrong. It just is. I'm very close to my stepdad. We talk all the time. I would call him in an emergency before my mom because I know he won't flip and that he will be able to communicate the issue with my mom. We had some hard times when I was a teen, but over the years we learned to communicate and just grew close. My point being, the above story is not the kind you see on subs like this. No one goes and makes a post just to say, my step-parent is pretty cool actually. We are always going to see the extremes here. I felt like I never wanted to be in another long-term relationship. When my divorce was finally finalized from the abusive man, I made the dumbass decision to marry in a love bomb phase. I married my whole face. I kept my dating separate from my daughter. Abusive ex realized it was expensive to try and use my daughter to control me and hasn't been around in 2 years. After spending 2 years sporadically in and out, enough to try and abuse me through her. Not that he did anything. When he was around, my 5-year-old never said dada, which, since you don't have kids, you may not know that dada is typically the first word because it's easier to say than mama. That's how little he put into the kid who carries his DNA. Then I started dating and eventually married my neighbor. We had a baby in August. He treats and loves my older daughter this exact same. He, his family, and my 5-year-old would literally fight you if you tried to say she wasn't his daughter. Over the moon. The murder she always wanted, but 2 granddaughters as well. His father and him have said on multiple occasions that my older kid is amazing and that if my ex-husband wants to piss away his fatherhood, then good riddance. And it's an honor to be in my kid's life as her father. I never wanted another baby or a husband. My friends and family were shocked when I went and did both. My husband farts rainbows. He's the best. I'm glad I got both. I'm not telling you to go out and look. Don't go heal and do you, but don't wall off your heart to the idea of a life partner. Because when you least expect it, you may meet your best friend and the weirdest, kindest person you've ever met, who just makes you feel the most loved and supported. Whenever I see topics on blended families, it seems like such a huge minefield to experience. Lots of parents seem to put themselves and their wants and needs first above the kids. I get it. The kids won't be happy if you're happy, but if your new happy life is making your kids miserable, when kids get trauma out of it, or you have cases like this where everyone seems to have taken the blending well, and then bam, something like this comes up. In cases like above, I feel on one hand that it sucks and it's unfair, especially if one set of grandparents treats them more equally and then decides that no inheritance runs by the biological lines. But on the other hand, can they be judged for this? They want their biological grandkids to be set up well. Normally, there isn't a problem in that. Lots of posts here from step-siblings, etc., where people say that your inheritance is your inheritance, and you don't have to share it. But on the other hand, at least in this case, both sets of kids will get something, and nobody will be left without. Does it suck that some kids will get more? Yeah, it probably does. And it will suck to explain it to kids and basically to tell them to suck the circumstances up. But this is how life is. And I didn't see the husband running to share before when his biological kids were going to be set up. So the husband is completely in a hole in this for wanting to share now. Such a minefield. Next story, my oldest son is turning 7 in February. We're throwing him his first big birthday party that will have both friends and family. He's so excited about it. My sister and her husband Adam have my niece, Evie, who is 8. Evie is adopted. This becomes somewhat relevant due to the argument, but when she was 2, Evie was diagnosed with a string of medical conditions and health problems. Some are more serious than the rest. She's in and out of hospital, and they've been warned her life might not be long if they cannot manage all the various health problems Evie has. It was a huge blow for my sister and Adam, but the whole family. Evie's health has become a topic that gets brought up at everything. 2 family weddings were taken over when my sister brought up how sick Evie was and alluded to the fact she did not have long left, despite her assuring the family on a number of occasions that things were not that bad. One of those weddings was our brother's wedding. 1 minute the happy uncle is the center of attention, and the next people are talking about how sad that he has a terminally ill niece, and the focus moves on to them. She even made a big deal of talking about Evie's health during the toast, and it sounded almost like she was asking someone to start a crowdfunding thing for them to pay for treatments without outright asking that. My brother was furious, and his wife Mia was upset that instead of being a happy day, most people ended up in a very somber mood at the wedding. This has also happened at birthday parties, block parties, etc. She brought it up at a couple of baby showers we attended together, and I assume some outside of that also. It's a lot, and every time it feels like everyone ends up sad, depressed, and uncomfortable. My sister and Adam have been spoken to about it before, and they claim they don't do it. Evie doesn't always get what's going on, and sometimes she's too poor to care. With my oldest son's party coming up, I felt like this was something I needed to try to prevent. So I asked her if she would not bring up Evie's health at the party. She told me she's not going to pretend everything is okay if people ask, and that it's important to make it known so people don't try to push her too much. I told her I do not want the whole party to become about Evie being sick again. She told me that's unfair, and I know why, so I told her they shouldn't come to the party if they only want to. Bring up Evie's health. My sister was furious. She accused me of not caring about Evie being sick because she's adopted and said I would be more understanding if Evie was my bio-niece. Even asked me why I cared so little about her. She also told me I was an a-hole for trying to gloss over the pain they feel and for excluding them when they live in hell every day. Aita, I want to talk about Evie too. The youngest child in my care will be fortunate to live to my current age. Kiddo is not biologically mine and has a harder start than most, a lot smaller and a little slower than her peers. She's absolute sunshine. My heart breaks knowing her time might be short, but I'm making sure she enjoys all of it. Parents need to give children space to be who they are and give them a chance to grow. Nothing in parenting is for certain, only the everything they chose for themselves can be a delightful surprise. I can't imagine reminding everyone of my kids' medical issues and needs when every family gets together. I do everything so my kids can flourish in whatever they do. OP, I don't believe your sister is mature enough to parent right now. Maybe they need to grieve or something, but looking for the spotlight on the back of Evie's medical needs in every situation is too much. She needs to respect her daughter's privacy and future by creating a safe and nurturing space for her to grow up. If everyone important already knows, then there's no reason to bring it up unless they are trying to get more attention. Why is that? Are they feeling overwhelmed and in need of time for themselves? Do they feel like life is passing them by? Suggest therapy and no longer invite them to large events until they work on their issues. I would suggest smaller get-togethers so they can work on not making that the top topic for every event, or maybe creating specific events for Evie, specific things she would like and find joy in. I agree. I know someone who has had 4 terminally ill children. Genetic, extremely rare, only manifested in the eldest around the age of 5, when mom was already pregnant the 3rd time, which ended up with twins. One of the kids died last year in her teens. 4 terminally ill children. I'm telling you, you can't make up something so horrible. I'm that girl who always finds something to say. But when she first told me her story in whispers, I couldn't find words or air. I'm pretty sure my heart stopped. 4 terminally ill children. Her 2 youngest, most beautiful identical twins were staring at me from the side looking completely normal, smiling, playing with their dolls, and chatting like 5-year-olds do. They hadn't started degenerating yet. It's been almost a decade, and I've watched the kids lose mobility, muscle control, and brain function, and ultimately they'll lose the ability to breathe. They're wheelchair-bound and drooling, expressionless and clueless. Never has that mother made an event or get-together about her or her children. Never.